Today on the Broadway Shuffle, Texas Tech basketball cools off, and is the GOAT debate officially over after Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs get demolished against the Eagles? That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. Okay, episode 51 of the Broadway Shuffle. Look, gonna start this episode off right away. We know it wasn't a pretty weekend if you're a Red Raider fan. We totally understand, but nonetheless, wherever you are, however you may be listening, we are glad you are here. You are here. We can use this as a therapy session today on this Monday morning on the Broadway Shuffle. I've got Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler with me, and we appreciate you being here with us as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please make sure to follow and like there. And if you're on YouTube, like this video and subscribe to our channel. 61% of people that listened to last episode were not subscribers, so we would love for you to join our family and never miss an episode every Monday and Thursday on the Broadway Shuffle. So guys, man, Saturday night in Tucson didn't go as planned. And then Sunday night in New Orleans, if you're a Texas Tech, if you're a Texas Tech Chief, or a Kansas City Red Raider. I don't know which one they call it, but either or did not go as well Sunday night in New Orleans. So where do you want to start? I mean, what are you guys more depressed about? Where do you want to start with Texas Tech, or do you want to start with Kansas City? Where should we go? Which loss hurt more here on the Broadway Shuffle?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate LaRaven Clark on getting his first Super Bowl win. So shout out to a Texas Tech football player once again winning in the Super Bowl. We cannot be denied. Great weekend.
Man, LaRaven, what a stud he was on the Kansas or on the Cliff Kingsbury teams. I'm sorry, Conrad. Yep. There was one win this weekend, though. However, before we get into the games, I believe you might even have a ribbon to show off, I hope, but you won a chili cook-off this weekend. So Conrad makes a mean chili. So for all of those that are depressed and sad coming off the Arizona loss and seeing Mahomes run for his life again in the Super Bowl, at least the Kool-Aid man can also make a mean cup of chili. So Conrad, why don't you tell us what goes into that concoction?
Well, Red Raiders, you've been failed numerous times this weekend. Pat Mahomes could not deliver. The Texas Tech basketball team could not deliver. But yours truly did make a bowl of chili that beat 10 other chilies or 9 other chilies at the church chili cook-off today, and I claim the winning prize. I have to give all credit to my wife, who cut the onions and cried to cut the onions. I did not want to cut the onions, and so that we smoked the chili, which was really cool. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before. So we put it in the Traeger and smoked a brisket over the top of an open Dutch oven and put some secret ingredients in there and came out on top. So Red Raiders, while Pat Mahomes failed you, while Texas Tech basketball failed you, I did not fail you. So there is one Red Raider that did win this weekend.
There you go.
Conrad,
the secret ingredient was cougar juice, huh?
Yeah. Cougar juice by far. Just a small dash.
Two questions for me. Average age of the participant in the chili cook-off, and then do you think this helps or hurts your nickname as the Pillsbury Doughboy?
Oh boy. Average age, probably 40s. Probably mid 40s. Okay. It wasn't a terribly significant age discrepancy between me and the other participants, even though I would argue that would make them more experienced in cooking chili, so that would make me an even further underdog. And then I don't think it necessarily hurts me. I think it maybe just takes the brand a little bit further. I don't know. Okay. I think if our listeners tasted my brisket or my pork butt or my pork ribs, they'd really be in for a treat as well. So the chili is just the one that I have an accolade for, and may have to put this behind me hanging off the double T at some point.
Conrad's creating quite the diverse restaurant. You got Kool-Aid, Pillsbury Doughboy, chili, pork ribs, brisket. Man, what a guy! So
if I win the lottery, I'm retiring tomorrow, and I will be opening up my own restaurant.
Oh man.
Where it will be is still be determined. Probably somewhere
on Broadway,
I don't know, maybe
baby.
On Broadway.
Yeah. Come on. Well, let's go ahead. I guess since we are technically a Texas Tech sports podcast, and though Mahomes did go to Tech, the Chiefs are actually not. For some of you that might not be aware, they're actually not a part of our university, technically, believe it or not. I know our sign is everywhere on Arrowhead, but let's go to basketball first. Z, what did you see this time around against Arizona? Why weren't we able to get it done Saturday night against the Wildcats?
Yeah, I thought Arizona played with a really good edge. I think, Arizona's a good team. There's there's nothing wrong with losing to a really good, that's a top 10 Ken Palm team on the road. That's a really, really tough environment. That place was bumping. They set off all the fire alarms. It was a pretty good environment, but I thought they really played physically. They also destroyed you on the glass. I mean, I think I looked and I think they had 42 rebounds to your 29. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. You actually did pretty good in the turnover department, and you forced some turnovers, and you actually shot it okay, just probably not as good as you were hoping to. But yeah, I thought they had the better game plan. They were more physical, and it looked like they wanted the game more. I didn't think the refs did you any favors, but I definitely don't think that was the reason you lost.
Was this in terms of metric, does this still help you? Was this like what you would consider a good loss?
Yeah, I mean, the line was about 4, so I guess it dropped you a little bit in the metrics, but missing a projection by 4 to 5 points on the road against a top 10 team doesn't tend to drop your analytic rating too much. And especially, if you look at any sort of game control analytics, the game was still in question with like 3 minutes left. So it didn't really ding you much. You're still going to be top, 12, 13-ish on all the predictive sites.
Yeah, Clay, we were watching the game together and we were like, man, doesn't seem like you're playing that well, but you're only down 2 at half. And then you're kind of down, 8 to 10, but then all of a sudden D5 hits a 3 there and you're only down 4 with like 4 minutes left or 5 minutes left. And it feels like you can actually take away some positives from this game, though you didn't necessarily play your best. You still had a chance to beat a very good team on the road at a late night in a tough environment. So are you walking away even feeling, even though it was a loss, still pretty positive going into the rest of Big 12 play?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked me that, actually, because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was if you want to, look for the bright side, it is a sign of a good team that like you can't be put away necessarily, like at the end of the games. Like, if you can hit big shots, I feel like every time, we have a lead on a Kansas or someone like that, like you're not going to finish them with 5 minutes left. They're going to hit some shots. You saw that happen with Auburn. Florida got up by 20. Auburn eventually got it down to like 8, and I think lost by 9. So if you want to look for the bright side, I think it is a positive that they weren't able to put us away, even though, there was probably 2 players on our team who played well, that you were able to stay in that game against a top 10 team on the road, in a tough environment. That's definitely, one of your 3 toughest games remaining on the schedule. So that's one positive.
Yeah, Conrad, it was interesting. Like Toppin finishes with 21, D5 finishes with 17. They're your 2 leading scorers. But I'd argue, though D5 finished 5 of 10 from 3, it didn't feel like either of them had that good of game, though they end up, providing 38 points. And then the rest of your team pretty much did nothing. I mean, Chance McMillan was non-existent this game. Elijah Hawkins didn't do much. Christian Anderson played well, but, it still feels like we say this every episode or every time we review a game that you have still not put it together as a unit completely. And even though Toppin had 21 and 13 and D5 was 17, they didn't necessarily play well. I mean, he was still, I think, like 6 of 18 from the floor, Darion Williams was. So there's still a lot of hope here that this team is going to peak at the right time. Just a little frustrating to see it on the road when you've been playing so well.
Yeah, it's not something that you necessarily I wouldn't have predicted that to happen on the road against Arizona like it did. But then again, can we really be surprised just because, not that we're not obviously not a bad team. It's just you never really know what to expect. Things can either go really well. You can have certain players play well, others play poorly, and then it just not work out the way you want it to. So I'm not really surprised at Darion's night. I think you've seen him play like that a few times this year where he's had moments in a game, but overall the performance is not something that you necessarily would want to replicate every single time. 6 of 18 is not a good stat line that you want to see someone have. Toppin had some plays that they both had that were interesting to me that were just seemed reckless. Didn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, although they both did turn the ball over quite a bit. So whenever you see them playing like that, I think the environment played on that. I think you could see that Grant was pretty frustrated at both of them at times on the sideline, screaming at them for whatever they were doing. And so you think about those 2 guys together, if they can just get it right and play like we know they can at the same time, I think you're going to see a team that is going to be extremely difficult to defend, as we already are, but even beat and put away, because when both of them are hitting on all cylinders, you've got one of the teams that's a top 3 or 4 seed in the tournament come March.
Yeah. Do we think there's any health issues with D5 at all still, Z? Any ankle nagging injuries? Any reason you think he's not. I mean, he's still playing effectively. Like he still is filling the stat sheet, but it doesn't seem like he's necessarily moving that well.
Yeah, he just hasn't been as efficient as he was. Like if you're looking at his, box scores, ever since that ankle injury, the bad one was in the Kansas State game. His O rating has just plummeted. He hasn't really had an O rating that's been above 115 since then. And his games prior to that, it was 157, 127 on the offensive end. Like was kind of crushing it. He's just had a tough time. But I don't think health's really anything there. I think the size and the length bothered him more than anything.
Yeah.
Brennan, one thing you mentioned was that the rest of your team pretty much did nothing, and I just want to I want to show our listeners what Brennan means when he says that. Federico squared, had 14 minutes, attempted 0 shots, got 0 rebounds, had 1 steal and 1 block. So when Brennan says nothing, he means basically nothing when it came to Federico, and that was probably his worst game of the season. All credit to him; he's a great player, but he did not necessarily help us out in any way on Saturday night in Tucson.
Yeah,
I would have liked us to go the double bigs more, because I felt like Toppin was struggling with the size as well. Yeah. And then, if you put in Federico, that bumps Toppin down. Honestly, I thought that Toppin was fine after like the first 10 minutes. Like, that's definitely not his best game, but the last 30 minutes of the game, I didn't really have a problem with his game. But I would have liked us to see us go bigger.
Yeah, I think it was with Toppin, it wasn't more the stats now ended. I mean, he hit that big 3 in the second half. He definitely was getting, he went to his right a little bit more in the second half, which I liked.
It was fine.
And it was fine. And that was like, there was literally one possession where I was saying, like, dude, go, like the guy is just sitting on his left side. No one's coming to double. I'm like, dude, just go to your right, go to your right, go to your right. And he, and he did. And it looked fine. I don't know why he doesn't do that more often. But
it's been there all year.
It was kind of
he's good with it,
right? Yeah, and it was more the physicality, in my opinion, on him. Just kind of seeing him get manhandled a time or two during that game. It wasn't necessarily the stats. Conrad, to piggyback off your 0-0-0, Curran Walton had a 0-0-0 stat line, and Kevin Overton also had a 0-0-0 stat line. So if you're looking at you play 8 guys relatively, and 3 of them provide nothing. Actually, That's tough.
Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah,
you need more from those guys off your bench. Not necessarily Christian outside of your top 5. I would say Christian subs in for Kerwin. You just need something from Fed, Overton, and Kerwin. You got to give me something. Give me 10 points and 10 rebounds between all 3 of you, and we'll call it a day.
Give me a rebound. Hey, what's that thing that what does Charles Barkley say when a guy doesn't? It was like a triple single. He was like, have y'all seen that video where
triple single.
Oh yeah,
Charles, like,
I love the guy
Lonzo Ball. He had a triple single. It was like nothing to do with
there's also that picture that goes around Twitter of I can't remember who it was, but he was on the Hawks. And
the trillion.
The zeros across the board in like 24 minutes of game time. I can't remember.
There was a guy this week, I think it was for Duke, and he put up 16 minutes. And at least Federico, nobody put up a trillion, where it's like a trillion, for those who aren't aware, is like the only thing that you logged was minutes. You didn't even pick up a foul, a rebound. Like you genuinely, if it weren't for the minutes recorded, they wouldn't have known you played the game. And a guy recorded a 16 trillion. He played almost a whole half and didn't record a single stat.
Wow,
that's
unbelievable. Out there for cardio, man.
That's unreal.
That's like me in a pickup game at Lifetime. Yeah.
How do you not even have a turnover? Like if you're in the game that long, like do something negative to get yourself pulled out, or I don't know. That's unreal.
And to who Conrad, was that you?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say if you want to be a serious contender in March, you've got to get more from these guys. Like Zyler said, 10 points and 10 rebounds. I mean, that's something. And when you just don't have anything coming from those 3 players, and you have at some points this season, but you're just not going to be nearly as good as you want to be. And the fact that you only lost this game by 9 and didn't get anything from those guys is honestly impressive.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, to your point, 10 points and 10 rebounds, you win if those guys have 10. If 100%. Those guys 3 combined have 10 points. And you're looking at D5, 6 of 18. Elijah Hawkins, 10 points, 12 assists, 3 of 12. So there's 9 of 30 from those 2 guys. And then you add a top and another 9 of 21. I mean, you're talking 18 of 51 from the three guys that did score. Anderson had an efficient game again, and he continues to be such a bright spot, man. I mean, this kid keeps getting better, which is crazy. And he could be your X factor come March. I mean, he really could be a guy that, you know, we always talk about in March, you need guard play. He's a guy that could actually like win you a game, like win you a tournament game. I think he has that skill.
Yeah.
And that's been huge. So you don't need Kerwin to come off like he did against Houston and hit 4 or 5 threes. You just need him to hit a couple. You need Federico to have a putback dunk or have those lobs that he and Hawkins have been so effective having. You don't really need a whole lot with what Christian Anderson's able to provide off the bench. But yeah, I mean, you need something more than 0, for sure. So
Are you guys okay? Obviously, you're not okay with this loss because you never want to lose a game. But do you feel like this loss is disappointing or hurts you that much given what we still have in front of us?
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
not
you're
really.
out of the 1 seed race, so you won't be a 1 seed. But
catching Arizona would be hard, probably in terms of. I mean, they're now a full 2 games. Well, I guess how does that tiebreaker work?
I think you would share.
You would
I don't
share
think
it.
there's like
a tiebreaker, like in 2019.
They have
there's a
an
tiebreaker for tournament seeding, but yeah, you would still get a title if you split with them.
So they still have they have Kansas State on Tuesday night. They have Houston at home. They have to go to Baylor, and then in March they have to play Iowa State, and then they have to play at Iowa State, and then they have to go at Kansas. So there's still a chance you catch them.
Yeah.
Dude, if you filter for games after January 25th, which I know is a super small sample size, Kansas State is playing like the best team in the country. They're like head and shoulders above everybody else.
Is wild.
That's wild.
It's like Kansas State, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, St. John's, Auburn, Texas Tech.
Could they make a bubble run, Z? Like, is there any way? I mean, do they have to run the table still, or could they afford like a loss?
They can probably get 2 losses, I think. That's what I was seeing
2 losses.
from someone.
They need to go 6-2.
So they going 18-13. They could get in the tournament. That's crazy.
They'll have a chance. The bubble was so bad this week. Nobody on the bubble did anything unless you were VCU or North Carolina or I guess Kansas State. But Kansas State wasn't really on the bubble until they won against Kansas. But it was a great weekend for you if you were a bubble team that either didn't play or somehow didn't lose because everybody else was terrible.
It's a long season, man. A lot can happen. You know, you have an opportunity, and that's what Texas Tech has. Still, I mean, these next 4 games before Houston, you get some of the 4 worst teams in the conference. So you get Arizona State at home on Wednesday. We'll be back to review that game as well, or to react to that game. Then you get Oklahoma State again, and TCU, West Virginia, and then Houston. So if you'll be favored in all 4 of those games. So in terms of what we have the opportunity to do, it is still win this conference and to still make a run at a 3 seed, potential 2 seed in the tournament. It's still in front of you. So to Conrad, to answer your question, I thought, you didn't play a great game. That's going to happen during the course of the season. Guys struggled. You just kind of say, hey, you lost to a good team on the road, late night game. You didn't play your best. No big deal. It doesn't change my opinion of this team at all.
Yeah, and Brennan, one thing. So Houston to date has played the 16th weakest schedule, or I guess the weakest schedule in Big 12 so far, and their remaining strength of schedule is number 1. Arizona's played the 12th strongest, so one of the worst, and their remaining schedule is 4th overall. You've played the 6th strongest, and your remaining is 14th. So your games get easier from here, and there's definitely pick up. Houston's schedule is incredibly backloaded.
And
LJ Cryer is hurt.
He got hurt? I didn't see that.
Yeah, they said something with his knuckle, but I don't know. We'll see.
Sharp's
anyway,
still
go ahead.
out. But I think if we somehow, I mean, this is getting ahead of ourselves, but if we were to only lose the Kansas game, I think you would share the title with someone, either Houston or Arizona.
You're just talking 4, like going, what, 16-4? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a possibility. That's a real possibility.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be favored in every other game besides Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not something we sat here. I don't know what we predicted. I think it was like 12-8 or 13-7 right before or after the UCF loss. But looking at where we are right now, it's a much better position to be in after that loss, and certainly after the Iowa State loss as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you've had good I mean, look at what A&M is. I mean, St. Joe's is obviously a little tough, but other than that, man, you've played some tough teams and you've played them well. You just haven't been able to get it done. So nothing I think to worry about. I still think this team, can make a really deep run in March, and I expect them to. So, all right. Well, we will check in on the basketball team on Thursday following the Arizona State game. But let's transition to the Super Bowl. We'd be remiss if we did not discuss it since Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech legend, was in the game. I sent an interesting article actually to Conrad or to all of y'all. Did y'all see that CBS article talking about Texas Tech's partnership with the marketing and media with Kansas City? I didn't actually know any of that, like a $7 million marketing contract with Kansas City. And like I did see during the AFC Championship game that Texas Tech's the Double T was on their main billboard right before the kickoff. Like you could have just shown that, and I would have thought they were at the Jones, so pretty cool. So obviously there's a big connection now between this franchise and Texas Tech, but a tough game. Conrad, I'll go to you first, man, just because you were the biggest, proponent of, hey, Patrick Mahomes will be the GOAT if they win this game. Obviously it wasn't meant to be for the Chiefs. I'll give you the floor.
No, I actually said he was already the GOAT a couple of years ago. So I was going to protect you. I don't know if you were trying to protect me, but I'm not scared of the people in the YouTube comments or to share my opinion on Patrick Mahomes. I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks ever to play. I think he's had the best start to a career that anyone's ever had. I mean, look, tonight did not go well for him. He did not play well. I think he would absolutely own that. I haven't seen the press conference that he had, but Andy Reid did not call a very good game, in my opinion, either. But then what do you do when your offensive line is, putting players in positions they shouldn't be in and not blocking that super talented defensive front for the Eagles? I think it was more about the Eagles just being a ridiculously talented team. I think it was a bad matchup for the Chiefs with this team. And so I think that's why you saw the game that you did. However, coming out and playing like that in a Super Bowl is not good for Mahomes' legacy. It's not good for the entertainment value of those who watch the game. But at the same time, when you've played in 5 Super Bowls and 7 seasons as a starter and you've won 3 of them, I still think that's ridiculously impressive. And so I think you're going to see a Chiefs team that is motivated next year, but it is extremely frustrating to watch that game when they were so close to a three-peat, something no one else has ever done. So I'm bummed, but at the end of the day, I still think he's the greatest player ever. I know there's going to be everyone that disagrees with me, but I'll stand on that table, and I think he's going to get a couple more at least because he's only 29 years old. So, Clayton, what were your thoughts on the game, on Mahomes, on the Eagles, and everything thereafter? Even maybe the halftime show. I didn't even watch it because I just don't care about Kendrick Lamar.
I was going to ask. I'm sad to hear that, Conrad, because I really was wanting to hear your thoughts on Kendrick Lamar.
No, I like music I can understand.
You sound like my dad.
Yeah.
Randy and I have a special bond.
Yeah, that was a tough game all around. I mean, the Eagles pretty much dominated from start to finish. Their defensive line was absolutely manhandling the Chiefs' offensive line. Pat wasn't playing well. I agree with you. If I was Andy, I probably would have tried to run the ball a little more at the beginning of the game. Obviously, once you get down 3 scores, there's not much you can do in that department. But I mean, it's definitely a hit to his GOAT debate, but it's not like that's over. That would be like saying the GOAT debate was over after LeBron lost in like 2014. So like, he's still got 10 years of a career left. So, but he's definitely not the GOAT yet.
Agreed. Z?
Yeah, I mean, tough game. I thought if anybody was going to get blown out, it was going to be the Chiefs. You could see that game script, potentially coming if somebody was going to get blown out, it was going to happen. It's funny. Like, I feel like Jalen Hurts is right on that level of who is the worst quarterback you could win a Super Bowl with, and I feel like he is like the perfect candidate. Like, if he's just a little bit worse, you probably can't win a Super Bowl with him. But it's funny. Like, they don't even interview him before the games. Like, they know that he's not the star of the team, but he plays that role really well. Yeah, I mean, tough for Pat, but I mean, their offense was terrible tonight. There's really nothing you can say. The Eagles scored on a pick six. They scored on a drive that started on their own 10-yard line, and that pretty much does it. I mean, you give them opportunities like that, you're not going to win the game. Chiefs got some offensive line stuff they got to figure out. They got to figure out your tackle situation. You've invested a lot of money in the interior of offensive line, and the tackle situation remains, middling, if not bad. And that's an interesting way to build an offensive line. So we'll see. GM is going to have a lot of interesting decisions. They're not going to be able to afford to sign, high profile free agents. They're going to have to do really well in the draft. So they got 4 picks in the top 3 rounds and definitely going to have to hit on those. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, from an entertainment standpoint, this game was a pretty big dud. From a legacy standpoint, it's got a lot of intriguing storylines because on the Chiefs front, obviously, if Mahomes were to have gotten to 4 and have the three-peat and have something that Brady didn't even do, that's a ton of just opportunity for him to kind of promote what Conrad is saying and being the GOAT. But now it's like, hey, at 3-2, like you have to go do it a couple more times. The way he's lost his Super Bowls has been pretty tough too. I know that'll be kind of used against him. Like, I mean, they had some garbage points, but pretty much just complete blowouts in his 2 losses. I'm sure people will love to make that argument considering Brady pretty much lost his 3, on last second stuff and everything as well too. So that'll be something interesting. I'm sure they'll use against him to compare to Brady. But on the Eagles side, it's interesting, Z, to your point on Jalen. Like, I just feel like people just want to hate Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and find a reason. And these guys outside of the Chiefs have arguably been, well, sure, but outside of the Chiefs, they've arguably been the best franchise in the NFL with 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and now winning one. And Jalen Hurts is doing that. I mean, Josh Allen's not doing that. Lamar Jackson's not doing that. Joe Burrow is not doing, Jordan Love or whoever the guys on the NFC side aren't doing it. So I know that Jalen doesn't. Dak Prescott's not doing that, right? Or the future quarterback of the Cowboys, Baron Morton, according to Conrad. Z, you missed that conversation. I'm sure we'll have plenty of offseason talk to have that. But it's interesting to kind of see like why these guys are so disliked. Like watching Jalen in the game, I'm like, dude, he's making good throws. He's making good reads. He's using his legs well. Like I'm not watching a bad quarterback, when I'm watching him play. So it's interesting. And now he's a Super Bowl MVP and his legacy cemented because that's all you need, as a quarterback is you just need one. And he got it and good for them. But I am sad for Pat, obviously, because this would have been history. It would have been historic for him. And, it's something, but I have no doubt that Mahomes will be in more Super Bowls. But I don't know what was worse, the game or the halftime performance. I mean, to Conrad's point, I know there's Kendrick Lamar fans. I know Clayton's one of them too, and he might have a different opinion, but I couldn't even understand him. Like, I didn't know any of the songs. I just wish, like, I don't know, put ABBA out there or something. Give me something I can sing to. I don't know.
Why not George Strait or something like that? Like somebody you can understand. I can understand more than George Strait. I just couldn't understand Kendrick Lamar. But I don't know. I actually brought up George Strait to Clayton. We said Morgan Wallen would be really good from a country perspective. Oh, he would have been much better than.
It's time they switch it up. But you've given us a lot of rap and hip hop the last several years. I'd like a change of scenery just once, and then
Kendrick was really good if you were like somehow in tune with the Drake Kendrick beef, which if you are, it's kind of weird, but also, I mean, it is really funny.
Wait,
if you do know what's happening.
I have no idea what's happening. What's the Drake Kendrick beef?
Okay, so I'll make it extremely quick. That last song that he plays is basically a diss track calling. Well, I probably shouldn't say it on a YouTube broadcast, but he calls Drake enjoys younger women. Is basically what he's saying.
Okay. So he did a diss track towards Drake during the Super Bowl halftime performance.
Clayton could probably explain it better than I could, but that's essentially what it is.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
That's pretty much everything.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. That makes that a little more. Now I kind of want to go back and listen to the last song because I don't know what that's about.
Wow. I guess children are going to be children.
You know that Conrad's got like a secret rap playlist somewhere on his phone.
He does.
I don't actually.
Somewhere,
I promise I don't.
Somewhere hidden deep, Conrad's got. Surely from high school quarterbacking, you got some.
No. Conrad, what did you listen to get yourself pumped up?
I really don't listen to music. Like I really don't. I exclusively. I forget what my Spotify rap said, but my podcasts were through the roof. Okay, I know there are a couple good Shabuzi songs that it's not really the words for me. It's just the beats are kind of cool.
The good.
No,
news.
I don't know. Shabuzi would be better for halftime than Kendrick, though. You can understand him again. That's the requirement.
Can anybody name a second Shabuzi song?
Good news.
No,
that's
I would hate to watch Shabuzi at a halftime
Shabuzi
show.
would
I'll
be
say that.
Good news in the bar song.
Hey,
and
why don't we just get Josh Abbott to make this Texas Tech centric? Josh Abbott, Super Bowl halftime performer.
That would be tough. Not a lot of national. I just think.
Clayton, you want to sing it for us?
Why don't we get Clayton? Let's get the Broadway Shuffle.
I want to go back. Conrad, what were you listening to before football games? Was it Charles Spurgeon or John
No,
MacArthur?
I don't.
Like,
I
what
don't.
did
I
you
don't
have in your
really.
ears?
I honestly don't remember that far back. I don't.
Charles Spurgeon.
Yeah. No, I really don't remember, honestly.
Beethoven.
That's a good question though.
I
Dude,
like to imagine Conrad's like hype speeches to the team before the game. I bet they were electric.
Man.
No. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a Super Bowl halftime show. If you're still listening at this point, let us know who you think should play next year and what you think about the comments made by yours truly about liking to understand those who perform at halftime.
And we'll do what we can to get him on the show. We have
we'll do everything we can.
Kendrick, explain yourself.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Well, yeah, tough all the way around. But I'm glad if you're a Kendrick Lamar fan, hope you enjoyed the show. But I just had a hard time understanding it. So
if you didn't, that's okay.
And if you did, yeah, that's fine too. Well, we'll be back on Thursday for a normal structured episode, but wanted to get our reaction to obviously what happened over the weekend in tech sports. And the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. So we'll be back on Thursday to react to the Arizona State game and look ahead to the weekend as well and talk some other stuff going on around the country. So make sure to, again, like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that episode or any of our episodes moving forward. And we will be back on Thursday. So for Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler, I'm Brennan. We'll see you guys next time on the Broadway Shuffle and Wreck 'em Tech.